All right, this is half a pound of sausage that I cut up into pieces, and I browned it in a little bit of olive oil. And as soon as it just got a little bit brown, all I'm doing is giving it some color. I stopped and I put it into the pan over here. And now I'm going to take some onions that I chopped up real fine. I took a half an onion and I put it in the food processor, chopped it real fine. It's a lot easier, mini food processor or whatever. Now I'm going to put it in that oil and start cooking it just a little bit. And then I'll add some garlic. All right, so now I have the onion nice and cooked. And as you can see, I scraped up some of the sausage that was on the bottom of it. All right, now I've taken from this head of garlic. This is a head of garlic, and let me tell you, these are nice big cloves. So I've only taken 3, and I put them in the food processor. And let's see, there. Now it's all chopped up. I'm going to put that in with the onions. Okay, this is a hint. See this? That's mold. You do not want that in your food. Okay, yes, I could take it apart, but you know what? For one little clove, I'm not going to bother. So, now for my pound of hamburger and my half a pound of sausage that I'm making meatballs, I did half an onion in the food processor. Now I'm going to do, these are pretty darn big cloves. I'm only going to do like 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to put that in the food processor. Oh, and before I forget, there's 2 different ways, well, there's a lot of different ways, that you can cut up garlic and everything else. The easiest way I know is taking both ends off and then giving it a good pound. So, hang on. Alright, so I've chopped up my garlic for my meatballs, and what I've added to this is what I have left of the oregano that I grew last year, and I made my own Italian seasoning. Unfortunately, I ran out of parsley, so I had to go buy some. And then I have my own dried basil that I use. So I put that all in there for the meatballs. Now I'm going to add very little salt, because I'm adding about a cup of Locatelli, and Locatelli is a really pungent Italian cheese, and you know this is the real stuff when it has that on the rind. You don't want the domestic stuff. I am going to add a pinch or so, that's a pinch or so, of pepper and a pinch of salt. So now, over here to the sauce. I've got my onions, I've got my garlic, they're cooking away. I'm going to add, how much is that? I don't know, a pinch. A pinch of that, and a pinch of basil, and a little bit of oregano. I don't put parsley in this. And I'm going to cook this for a couple of seconds. Now, if you don't have hot Italian sausage and you use sweet Italian sausage, you can add some hot pepper flakes to this if you want. But again, it's a personal preference. So, now that that's done, I'm going to add 2 cans, these are the size cans, of crushed tomatoes. Again, depending on where you live, it will depend on what you can get. I didn't add a lot of basil because this has basil in it. There. Okay, so there's 2, these are the 28-ounce cans. Okay. Now what I also did, and I'll show it to you in a second. Okay, so that's nice and stirred up. Now I'm going to add, I don't know, about 3/4 of a can, maybe a little bit more, of water. And I like to clean out my cans, so I'm going to clean them out and put it in there. Alright, so now I also took, I just had a day-old pizza bread. It was a roll. I put it in the food processor, ground it really nice and breadcrumby, and I put it in with just a little bit of milk, and I let that soak. In here I have 2 eggs, I have a half a cup of grated cheese, I have my onions, I have my garlic, I have my parsley and my basil and all that good other stuff. That's all in here. Now I'm going to add in my breadcrumbs that have been put in with milk. And I'm going to put it in the mixer for a minute, and you'll see why. Taking everything over here to the mixer, and I'm just mixing it up. I just want to make sure everything is mixed uniformly, because there's nothing worse than getting a bite of garlic in one piece and nothing in the other. And this has also got my sausage and everything else. So there's my meat. I've just got to see if I need to add some more breadcrumbs to it. These are the, I don't know if you can see that or not. These are 4 seasoned breadcrumbs. And they are seasoned. So again, you have more seasoning for more flavor. And I'm putting them here. Let's see how we do. Just because it's way too wet. There it goes. That looks perfect. What I'm looking for is something to hold together like this. Okay? But you still want it a little bit wet. And that actually just needs a little bit more breadcrumbs. And then I'm going to cook them up in the frying pan. Alright, so we're all mixed up. Now, there's a lot of people that say, don't do it in the mixer, yada, yada, yada. You can do it by hand. Yes, you can do it by hand. They've done it a million times by hand. But what I found out is that by doing it in your mixer, now I'm talking a big KitchenAid mixer. I'm not talking about your handheld mixer. It's not going to work. But you're not manipulating the meat too much that it becomes tough on you. So that's why I do it, especially when I'm combining my own meats, my pork and my hamburger. When I'm doing that, I find that it distributes more evenly and it's not tough. So now I'm going to make one meatball, and I'll show you what I'm doing there. Taste it. If it tastes okay, then I'll make the rest of the meatballs. If not, I can add more to it, but I can't take it out. Alright, so while I'm cooking my sample meatball, and you notice I made it very, very flat. It cooks a lot faster. I added, and I will show you, this is the end of the chunk of cheese that I had. I added again, flavor, flavor, flavor. But what I did was I tasted the sauce, and it's a little bit bitter. So, this is baking soda. And now I'm going to add that, and it was like 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda to, I don't know, about a teaspoon of sugar. Sometimes, and I find this with fresh tomatoes, they'll be very, very acidy. And when they're that acidic, it becomes bitter. So by adding just a hair of the baking soda, as you can see, it's foamy, and it foams away all the acid. And then adding the sugar in it, it sweetens up the sauce a little bit. Okay, looks like this is done. I'm going to take it out and put it on a plate and let it cool off a minute. Alright, here is my test meatball, and it's cooked. Good. Okay, so now I can finish making them. Now, here's the other thing. Do you want to fry them, or do you want to bake them? Personally, it doesn't matter. You do whatever you want to do. I don't want to stand over a stove, so I throw mine in the oven while they're baking. I'm picking up and cleaning up and everything. I'm doing other things instead of standing there over grease. Up to you. I'll show you what's going on when I'm done. Alright, so here what I'm doing is I'm making my meatballs, and what I use, I know, I like big meatballs. If I'm making for a large, I have a smaller scoop for a large amount, but since this is home style, that's what I'm getting. So anyhow, I'm putting them on a thing. I'm going to put them in the oven about 400 degrees. When they're done, I let them cool a little bit, and then they're going to go in my sauce. Now in my sauce, I have my Vogue Italienne for my flavor, and that does come out at the end. I just want it in there for flavor. The other thing I have is just a couple of peppers. It's like, you know when you cut a pepper and you don't use the whole thing? Well, I save it and I put it in the freezer. Then what I have is my sausage. And I have my sausage and all my juices and all my good stuff like that. And that goes in. Okay, so I'm going to let that cook. And because I added the water to it, it's really, well, it's pretty darn soupy. So what I'll do is I'll let it cook for a couple hours here on the burner. And it is on very low. Yes, I want it on low. And I'm just going to let it cook. And when it's done, I'll take out the cheese rinds. And the meatballs will have been in there, and they're going to soak everything up. And that's just about it. Next lesson, I think maybe lasagna. Or it might be homemade renegade. Not sure. But see you soon.